Welcome to the EDHRECast, where we're all about Commander, comedy, and cooking. A variation on Joey's usual intro, which will make sense here in just a minute. I'm Dana Roach, and I'm joined by my esteemed co-hosts. First, the man, the myth, the legend, Mathimus Bronwyn Tiberius Morgan IV, a man with more names than he has Selesnya decks.
I mean, that actually is pretty true these days. But, I mean, you mentioned cooking, and speaking of which, my wife actually told me that whenever I make a salad, it tends to be a little bit on the dry side. And I said, well, that's probably something that needs a dressing.
How long have you been tossing that around?
There it is. Freshly tossed that joke in the oven. Not the oven, because that wouldn't work with salads.
I mean, it wouldn't work well. You could technically do it. Well, as you just heard, we have a special guest this week, a man for whom Let Him Cook might apply to both building a really cool deck and his day job, Chef Sean Pharr.
Hey, everybody. Actually, before I was a chef, I was actually a potato lawyer. It just didn't work out. I ended up getting disbarred for appealing all the time.
I mean, hopefully you can hash out a new career then, because if you can't be a lawyer...
You're all of your clients fried. So Sean, why don't you introduce yourself and tell our guests who you are?
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Pharr. I am a chef and owner of a restaurant called Mitmark, also a bar called the Muska Lounge, another restaurant called Hank's, Burgers and Fish Fry, and soon to be another bar called The Perch. I've been cooking for now about 28 years. And it's something that, you know, it's the career for me. It's everything that I've ever wanted, and I've got the greatest teams. And because of everybody that does so well and works so hard for me, I get to do things like this and play Magic.
Very cool. Well, so let me set this episode up here briefly. We've had some very data-intensive episodes. Joey and I talked about the games we tracked, so there was a lot of stats there for 2 episodes. Before that, Joey went over how we tabulate data on EDHREC with our in-house data scientist. So there's been a lot of focus on the Magic portion of Magic the Gathering, and to shake things up a little bit, we wanted to focus on the Gathering portion of Magic the Gathering. And while Sean and I were kicking around ideas, because I wanted to have him on as a guest, we're just talking about, like, you know, what things we could talk about. And one thing he mentioned was the importance of sharing experiences around a table and how that both applies to Commander and to food. And I'm going to go on a little bit of a long story here briefly, I guess, not that briefly, but I just made some plans with some friends this morning to go get dinner Friday night. If you're not from the Midwest, you might not know what Friday fish fry is, but if you're from this region, like all 3 of us, most places have like a Friday night fish fry where you can go get beer battered fish with, you know, fries, and you drink an old fashioned with it, or get a Liney's or a Spotted Cow, which all doesn't make any sense.
Nobody knows what that
region.
means. Yeah, if you're not in Wisconsin, nobody knows what Liney's means.
But if you're from this region, you know exactly what we're talking about. But the friends I'm going to dinner with are people that I know from playing Commander. And thinking back then, you know, the last time I went to hang out with friends was 10 days ago or so, and I went and met Matt for lunch with our friend James, people I all know from playing Commander. And I'm okay. Before that, I went and played Commander and ate with Sean right before Christmas and some friends, and had a ridiculous charcuterie board. So much meat and cheese. Definitely could not have been healthy for any of us. So it kind of registered with me how much of my life and people I'm friends with revolve around food and Magic and sharing that table and that space with those people. And I've done a lot of that with you two. So that really resonated with me as such a huge part of my life. And I thought that'd be something for us to talk about. And I think, like Matt, I went to your wedding this fall.
Yeah.
And
a lot of those people.
Like how many people there were friends that you've made over the years from playing Commander?
I mean, from playing Magic in general. Yeah. Like you looked at my side of the place and there's just, granted, people that I work with, like you and Joey, but then also like people work behind the scenes over EDHREC, but then also just some friends that I met through Magic. Like Olivia Gobert Hicks and Brian Kibler, who like I've gotten to be friends with over the years. But then also too, like if you rewind a little bit further, I met Sean through playing Magic. You know, we were at MagicCon Chicago, but what did we do when we weren't playing Magic? We sat down and enjoyed a meal. And so there's so many like corollaries between enjoying food and just spending time gathering around a table versus gathering around a pot of Magic and playing Commander. And I'm really glad that Sean, you're here, because I think that your perspective is going to be so interesting to kind of like dive into when it comes to how is it the same thing? Like, and there are ingredients to playing a good Commander game. And as a chef, I'm sure you know, there's ingredients to making a good dish. I don't know if you've heard that or not. I don't know if they teach that in culinary school.
I've seen something about it on YouTube a few times, but
Fair.
I'm not sure.
But yeah, Sean, the same is true for you, right? Like how many of your friends, the people that you hang out with, is that the shared experience for you guys as well?
Absolutely. I mean, within my core Magic group, which is basically the most Magic and Commander that I play is with my group of friends, it always has food revolving around it. We always take a break to go sit down and eat. Or if we go to my neighbor Joe's house, you know, he's made like walking tacos or something, you know, kind of fun or just a casual. And it's even evolved into a restaurant dining group where we all dress up in Adidas tracksuits and go to popular chain restaurants instead of, you know, like going out for a fancy meal. And it's an amazing correlation between Magic or Commander and sitting down at a dinner table with someone. I mean, sitting down at a table has been a mainstay in the history of the world. So many things have happened across the table, and so many things still do. I mean, I have had absolute support while sitting at a table. I have had heartbreak sitting at a table. I have had moments of joy, sorrow, sadness, belly laughs, everything you can possibly do. And it's not always food that's at that table. There are moments where it is, you know, my Krenko deck causing sorrow, or, my buddy's, Grothamet deck making everybody laugh because we can't believe we just got pounded by a giant worm. The table is this amazing medium for creating memories and relationships.
Yeah, in building those relationships. So we had, talked a bit, you and I, but we didn't really get that chance to hang out person to person until CubeCon this fall.
Right.
Over food. And over the course of 3 hours, we were there forever.
Yeah.
Eating, and then we then played games afterwards, but like started off just talking about like Magic stuff, and then the conversation turns into movies and music and like where we grew up in, because we're from kind of roughly the same part of the state, more or less, talking about growing up experiences in Wisconsin and our families, and that all blossomed out from that initial connection over a shared meal and having that shared interest in Magic.
Right. There wasn't much of a connection the first time we sat at a table, other than the connection you made with Dramoka. And killing me because I played a smothering tithe, and you turned and looked at me and you're like, really? And I was like, yeah, I guess this is annoying, isn't it? Sorry, Dan.
I mean, you probably had it coming. I feel like that was fair.
Yeah, for sure. I was playing Joda, so
Yeah, you had me on your side, Sean, until you said Joda. Then like,
oh, come on. Joda's a collect-all for legendary creatures. It's great.
Joda's a great villain. Like everybody can, it's like Nickelback. Everybody can agree to hate it these days. It had its time. It was popular for a little bit, and now it's just like, got to get you out of here.
Yeah, probably.
Well, we are excited to be teamed up with Dragon Shield, our favorite producer of Magic accessories. These new Landfall series sleeves are basically my favorite thing ever, using art from Tarkir Dragonstorm fetch lands. These sleeves are fantastic. They look gorgeous. They keep your deck safe. And if you go to dragonshield.com and use promo code EDHREC in all lowercase, you'll get 5% off your next purchase. It helps the show. And best of all, it keeps your treasure safe, just like a dragon.
And if you'd like to support the show, there's a lot of different ways that you can do that, whether it's making sure you subscribe on YouTube, subscribe to your local podcast app. But if you would like to, you can also head over to patreon.com/EDHRECast, where we have all sorts of ways of just saying thank you for supporting us over on Patreon, including getting into the running to be in the weekly patron shoutout of the week, where we just give a very special shout out to a patron just for signing up and supporting us over there. So this week, we are going to give a very special shout out to Eric Pohl, who we did run a poll with all of our listeners and said, if you want a good way to support the EDHRECast, head over to patreon.com/EDHRECast. So Eric, thank you so much for all of your support and just to all of our patrons. We really actually could not do this without all of our support over at Patreon. So make sure you head over there and just thank you to all of our supporters there.
All right, let's get back to it. So Sean, I want to ask you a few things about you here first. How did you get started playing Magic/Commander?
I started playing Magic in the Homelands block.
Oh, wow.
My parents had gone away for a business trip weekend or something like that, and my buddy Sean asked me if I had played Magic before, and I said no, and I don't even know where we went to get this, but we got one of those like Magic starter kits that come in like a box that looks like the back of the card. And then I end up cracking a ton of goblins. And at that time, he's like, "Oh, cool! I've got a Goblin King and like a Goblin Wizard. I'll put in there for you." And then I met the two other guys or three other guys that he played Magic with, and that's where like my core group of friends in high school started. And after they left for college because they were all 2 years older than I was, I sold all my cards, all those homelands, but. I got out during the alliances. I won a box of alliances, cracked that, and then got rid of everything, all those Force of Wills, and didn't get back into Magic until 2018, where I was in some store and I saw one of those Planeswalker decks, and I bought two of those. And it kind of started from there. I heard this dude at the gym one day talking about playing D&D, and I said, "Oh, if you play D&D, you should play Magic." And now he's one of my best friends. And then we met two other guys through talking out loud at the gym while weightlifting about Magic, and also they're like, "Oh, we play Magic," and they had just had two people in their play group move away, so boom, there was four, and they would come to the restaurant and hang out, and we'd talk cards, and I got into Commander shortly after meeting Ryan, the first guy, and I was like, I think we need to try this. So I built an Olaro deck. I think as everybody maybe gets into Commander late builds, because like, oh yeah, I like having life. That sounds great. And it just snowballed from there. And it became this thing that it was this separation from work. Being a chef and an owner of multiple businesses can be kind of stressful and time consuming and thought invading. There were periods of time in my life where all I could do was thinking about food, and all I could think about was the restaurant. And for the majority of my career, I've worked 80 to 90 hour weeks, and it's all along comes Magic. And I started figuring out ways to make time for this other group of friends who are completely un-industry related. And I started being a happier person and started finding myself distracted by looking at EDHREC or watching YouTube videos on how to play, and constantly trying to brew decks. And it was just this amazing thing. And then one day at my bar, the Muskie, this guy I knew who played Magic introduced me to a fellow named BK, or Brian Kowal. And it turns out Brian was a former Pro Tour player who owns Misty Mountain Games in town here in Madison. And then the world opened up. It was amazing, the things that becoming friends with BK helped me in so many ways. It was and it begins again with like a meal. There was, I think there was the second CubeCon he had hosted, and he said, "Hey, do you mind if I bring some friends into Mintmark for dinner tonight?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that'd be great." And he brought in Gavin Verhey and Melissa DeTora. And,
two good people, yeah.
Yeah, and I sat down at the table, and I watched them eat my food, and Gavin being a massive foodie, he and I hit it off right away. And Brian just kind of sat back and watched the relationship develop. And we were talking about restaurants all over the countries that we've eaten at and styles of food we love and all these things. And before you know it, a 2 hour dinner had gone by. And Gavin stops and he looks at me and he goes, "You're sitting at a table with the two main creators of Commander. Do you have any questions for us?" And I couldn't even think of like a magic question. I was just so like enamored with the moment. And I looked at him and I looked at Melissa and I said, "How do you guys handle negative feedback? Because that's something that happens in my world, and I'm sure yours too. You guys get blown up in comments all the time, and people love to do that kind of stuff. And on food platforms, people love that sort of thing too. People that really don't have any background in cooking or haven't spent, umpteen years of their lives getting screamed at by a 3 Michelin French dude. Um, and Melissa told me the story about how her boss at one point said, "There's no more bad magic cards. There has to be a good card for every person." And she created Oka, which destroyed standard, right? And
I
she
mean,
got
it's a good
death
it's a good card.
It's a great card.
It's a good card for the wrong reasons, though.
Yes. Yeah.
But I get it. Yeah.
So, and she just talked about how, like, she was doing her job, and her job was to make strong cards. And it wasn't fair that people treated her like that. But at the end of the day, she was doing her job. And Gavin said that he looks at it as people care so much about magic that sometimes they just become enraged. And to a certain degree, that helped me a lot with what I do. I have a restaurant, Mitmark, that people in this town really adore. And it took me a long time, almost 7 years, I would say, to understand what Mitmark was. For me, Mitmark was an exchange of my talents and my skill and my team for money, right? I would make you food, you would give me money. And towards the end of the first Mitmark, we decided to move the restaurant to a new space. And people were so mad at us. We had this tiny little 1,300 square foot restaurant. People thought it was cozy. It was their joint. It was kind of a hole in the wall. I mean, I built it. My carpentry skills are better than computer skills, thank God. But it meant something to people. And somebody wrote me a love letter, and they described some of the things that happened to them while having meals and experiences at a table at Mitmark. Heartbreak, falling in love, laughter, joy, sadness, all of these things. And what I realized is what I was a part of creating was an experience at a table that was special to people and made them feel. And I don't think you can really put a monetary marker on that.
Sure.
And once I started looking at it as a transition versus a transaction, my career got so much better. My mental health got better. It was this thing, and it's the same thing that happens with magic, right? We sit down at this table with other people. Maybe we don't know them. Maybe we've known them for years, but we get to have this moment where there's jokes, there's laughter, there's frustration. But at the end of the day, it's usually always something loving that comes out of it, and it's spectacular,
Well, and I remember so many experiences. Like, I know, Dana, we just did a couple episodes where you and Joey talked about every single game you guys played. Well, I don't remember every single game I played. And the same thing, like, I don't remember every single meal I've ever had. But I remember those ones that just, like, there's always, like, certain ingredients you can kind of point to for games and meals. Like, something just hit the right chord. And you remember details of that. Like, I remember, Sean, the first meal you and I had together when we were in Chicago.
Yeah.
I don't like mushrooms, but they had some mushroom dish that, like, absolutely just, like, super good. I loved it. And it's not normally my thing. Well, I remember there's times that, like, I don't enjoy control decks, but every now and then Dane will play a control deck and I don't like that. But then also, like, oh, I see the appeal to this. Like, this makes sense here. And, like, there's always these crossovers that you can find between the two. And it's fascinating to me, just, like, all those different, like, endpoints you can point to that apply to both of those categories.
Absolutely. And I think, you guys are great examples of that in Commander. And I think, like where my skill set in cooking is, one of the things that I'm very confident in is that I can make something that somebody doesn't necessarily like or they have a preconceived notion of not enjoying. I promise
Mhm.
you I can make it taste good. Like I am really good at working with offal, like all the organs and all the things that people don't normally eat. I made it a goal to make sure that people are comfortable with eating these things because it's an important part of food history and it's an important part of culture. And the same thing with deck building. I don't like decks that dirtle forever and ever and ever, and like you're just blowing up counters and do these things. BK's got a Rocco Street Chef deck, and I think it's a bracket 2 if you actually go down and boil it through Archidect,
Mhm.
but it he just goes off for like 15 minutes, and most of us go get a snack. We come back and we assume his math is right, but it is about the ingredients. It is about knowing what to put in and how to utilize it. I mean, anybody can shave truffles and put foie and decadent cheeses and all these things and buy really wagyu beef and buy all these things. But can you take a calf's liver and an onion and make it good and some potatoes, right? And make it sing to somebody's soul. And I think that's an exact thing in deck building.
Well, and it's a good way to get outside your comfort zone too. A lot of times when we travel for stuff, actually Matt winds up being the person who picks places for us to go eat. And it's almost always someplace that like if left to my own devices, being a Midwest meat and potatoes kind of guy, like I'm gonna get a burger, right?
Yeah,
I'm gonna get something simple that I know I'm gonna like and not have to think about. Matt will always pick places that are going to put me outside of my comfort zone, but it'll force me to try something that I'm not going to on my own force myself to try. And I always like it. I'm always better for that experience. And the same happens with EDH. I have very specific things I'm going to be doing when I build a deck. For example, I'm not going to play many precons or take a precon and upgrade it because I want to build my own thing. But if left on my own, I'm only going to see those things I build. Whereas when I sit down with somebody else, I'm going to share that experience. I'm going to see that Toph, the first Metal Bender deck that on my own, I'm never going to brew. I'm never going to play. I'm never going to see it. But someone else is going to show me something cool, and they are going to make me experience something that on my own I wouldn't experience. And I always think I'm better off for both of those things. For Matt putting me outside of my comfort zone and making me try something new when we go somewhere to eat, and just playing games with people I don't know and seeing decks and seeing things I would not otherwise see.
yeah,
Well, and I think precons are a really good example of that. Like it's a way for the design team to kind of hold your hand a little bit and give you exposure to, okay, this is my take on this type of deck. And same thing, I'm sure, Sean, you see it all the time. I'm not a big fan of whatever ingredient it is. And like, well, let me give you like a small, like, and safe approach to that ingredient or to that type of cuisine. It's so important to kind of give people a chance to see that new world. And it's like, yes, it's outside your comfort zone, but we're going to make it accessible. We're going to make it a safe way to experiment too. And I think that's why getting to play outside your normal pod, even that's why I love going to Magic Cons, because you have a chance to see so many different people, so many different approaches. It's like a chili cook-off essentially, where everybody has their own take on the exact same thing. Everybody's playing Commander, but everybody has such a different approach to what they think makes it the best way to do it.
absolutely. And even mannerisms at the table. My play group, we have certain code words that just happen, P the T, or which ended up being pull
Yeah.
the T. Now we just go like this if we're passing the turn sometimes. And but if I did this at Chicago Con, people were like, "Well, what are you doing, bro?"
Easy. Yeah.
But it is fun to see how people behave at these other tables. The first MagicCon I went to in Chicago, I walked around for the entire first day, just bewildered by what was going on. I didn't even start playing until the second day, and then I got on with these group of guys that I didn't know, and we ended up jamming, I think, 6 games together. And I learned about John Arenicus. Like I'd never seen a deck that like gifted people terrible creatures. And just all these other decks like that are so far outside there, and the way people interact, and they were all like great. And I know that's not always the story out there. There are a lot of people who can be toxic in any industry, in any game,
Sure.
in any sort of thing. Um, But I think one of the neat things that I experienced at these is just like everybody just kind of wants to have fun and they kind of want to do their thing. And um, albeit it was, even like kind of going back to your last podcast, Dana, people didn't know what Sir Conrad did at the table. And that was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, people may not have known what Sir Conrad did, but they found out really, really quickly what it did.
But it was nice to see people smiling about it and being like,
sure.
Yeah.
Instead of my group was like, oh my God, here we go.
No, for sure. Yeah. The getting out there and just experiencing things that you wouldn't have otherwise experienced, whether it's food, magic, whatever, I think is really important to force ourselves to do that. Particularly it gets tougher as you get older. At least it is for me. Like it's really easy to get set in your routines and not have to experience things that are outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So before we get too much further into this, I think it's maybe time to actually challenge some stats. There's a ton of data on EDHREC, but we like to sometimes take a look at what cards should see more play or less play.
So let me get us started this week with my challenge. So this is a card that's, again, another random uncommon from Final Fantasy that I'm falling in love with because I've been finding myself putting into a bunch of decks that care about landfall. So Chocobo Kick is a sorcery for 1 and a green that says, has kicker, return a land you control to its owner's hand, and then target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. If the spell is kicked, it deals twice that much damage instead. So it is a nice way to get removal, and it picks up a land. Those are two things that, especially if you're in a landfall deck, you absolutely want to be finding space for this because you need removal. You need to interact with the other opponent's things. It is sorcery speed, but also being able to recycle a land, picking up an important land, whether it's something with an ETB effect or you just need more landfall triggers. This is super, super important because we always talk about landfall decks sometimes running out of resources. If you're building the new Tifa Lockhart, if you're playing the OG like I am, the Omnath Locus of Rage, you absolutely want to be able to be maximizing how many lands you get to play every turn. And so being able to pick them up is so powerful. It's one of the reasons that we love bounce lands in this format because it's a way to recycle your lands and play them again next turn, or if you have extra land drops, again this turn. So Chocobo Kick is just a powerful way to, you get the removal, and it's not even a fight spell, it is a bite spell, as it were, where you have the creature dealing damage to an opponent, or a creature an opponent's controls, But also, being able to pick that land up is just incredibly powerful. I just cannot overstate that enough. So if you need a nice 15-cent addition to any of your decks, especially, like I said, that have that landfall, make sure you put a copy in there because Chocobo Kick has been overperforming on so many levels, even better than a lot of the traditional removal you might be putting in decks otherwise. So it's only in about 20% of Tifa decks right now. It's in even less if you look at most landfall decks. So Chocobo Kick is just not being played very much, and I think that needs to change.
Okay, my challenge to stats this week, or the only week since I'm brand new to the podcast and probably won't be on it again, is a card called Tainted Strike. And this is applying directly to one of my favorite commanders, Sir Conrad. Tainted Strike, 1 and a black, target creature, it's an instant, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains Infect until end of turn. This only shows up 13% in Sir Conrad decks. And the reason why I really, really feel like this should be slotted in more is, I don't know if more people are leaning into mill or if they're leaning into other ways for Sir Conrad to do his thing. But more often than not, when I'm playing this commander, people know something bad is going to happen. This is a way to make that bad thing happen a little bit faster. You need minimal things on the board to get 5 creatures into the graveyard and 5 out, or just 10 in altogether. And in my opinion, it's a little bit better than trying to mill yourself on things, because when you see a Mind Crank or a Mesmeric Orb hit the graveyard, and those 2 key pieces in a Conrad deck aren't with you anymore, it's good to have some other things on backup.
And my favorite part about Tainted Strike, too, is once in a while, you'll just look down and the person to your right will swing at the person to your left with an 11 power creature. And you're like, oh, I'm just going to give that creature +1/+0 and Infect and knock that person out of the game.
The classic Dana Roach Berserk play.
There we go.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Hitting somebody else's thing with it always feels real good. My challenge this week is brought to us by listener Gabriel GS, and it's for the card Shram's Expertise in Mendicant Core Guidelight. Shramp's Expertise is a 4-mana sorcery, 2 and double white, and it says create 3 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature tokens, and then you may cast a spell with mana value 3 or less from your hand. And what's relevant here is Mendicant's power is determined by the number of artifacts you control. So Gabriel writes, this sorcery will pump up Mendicant's power by 3, and it will help you cast another spell, which if you're already at maximum speed, you can copy with Mendicant Core's ability. Cards like Sculpting Steel and Repurposing Bay are some of the most powerful artifacts that you can cast and copy with this card. And the average deck for this commander has 39 cards with mana value 3 or less, so you could cast about 60% of your deck with this sorcery by paying only a single mana. So yeah, functionally with Shramp's Expertise, you're going to spend 4 mana and then cast a 3 mana spell for free. So basically you're spending 1 mana to get 3 servos that are also pumping up your commander's power in the process. It's a really good pick for that deck, and I agree, it should see more play than the 147 decks it's currently in. And Challenge Stats has been brought to you by Cardsphere, our favorite way to get cards we need to build the decks we're brewing. With Lorwyn Eclipse released, Matt, is there anything you're eyeballing from Lorwyn Eclipse to pick up as soon as you can?
I mean, the whole set just kind of came out really quickly, but yeah, there's several singles that I'm looking at. I got my eye on a few of the, I mean, if you have any creature type deck, like that just cares about a type of creature, there's going to be something in there. If you're building changelings, whatever, there's so much gas in there. So yeah, if you want a chance to get your hands on all of these just because Cardsphere has them available and you can get them sent to you from across the country, you can have Dana send you a card. Check out cardsphere.com.
Go to cardsphere.com/EDHRECast to get started today. All right, let's get back into the main show here. And I want to go back to a comment Sean made about how you used Magic as a way to like de-stress from your stressful day job. I actually want to redirect that to Matt. So as someone who works with Magic full-time now, Matt, do you find it's still a way for you to get away from the stress of your day job, or do you find if you can find another hobby to do that, or how does that work for you?
I mean, since Magic has become my day job, I actually still find myself like I'm brewing decks. Like yes, Magic is my day job, but I don't do Magic things specifically. Like I'm still working with marketing, doing like normal job things, just doing it for a Magic company versus actually like playing Magic and digging into things. So I do find myself still taking a break and looking at, okay, this new deck that I'm brewing up, do I want to tinker around with it a little bit? So it actually still gets to be a break for me, and I get to have some sort of distraction that is still Magic. And that doesn't mean that it's the only distraction that I have. Like I still get a chance to play League of Legends or whatever else it is that I distract myself with. But yeah, it is kind of nice that I get to kind of have the best of both worlds when it comes to Magic is my job, but also it is something I get to do as an outlet, to be creative, to have some sort of outlet to express myself a little bit with, which it feels weird to be bragging about this, but it's such a great place to be. I get to have like everything that I like about both of these worlds.
Yeah, I'm kind of in
eating it.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat too. Like I worked in IT for a lot of years, very stressful situations. I was a network engineer, so like there was a lot of 2 a.m. phone calls because something is down and this needs to be resolved by 6 a.m. when folks start logging in. That kind of stress you need a reliever from. The stress from working at my current job is not maybe the kind of one where I need something on the side to like deal with that. So I'm very much in the same boat you are, Matt. It's not like it is for you, Sean, where you're talking about working 80 hours a week and the high pressure environment where you need some way to preserve your mental health. Yeah. So yeah, no, that's interesting. I was just curious how you handled that, Matt.
More often than not, I have found myself not even just the act of playing a game or the act of looking online to brew decks or staying up to date with new sets which come out every other week. I find ways to use Magic to start my day. Even I in my game room in my house, I'll usually have one deck out on my table, and before I leave for work or the gym, I'll come downstairs and I'll goldfish a hand and just kind of go through it, and like sometimes I'm like, man, if I get that turn 1 Soul Ring, I know the day is going to be great. This is going to be awesome. I have friends who have talked about, dropping a Chaos Orb before every morning just to see if they can do the thing. I'm not rich enough to be able to do that. But it's Magic is just this thing that can completely distract you from whatever's going on, for better or for worse. I've been accused of being obsessed with it sometimes for my wife, and I don't think she's wrong. And I've certainly had to, learn limitations on like when I should be sleeving up a deck while we're sitting next to each other, or maybe waiting until she goes to bed. Um, but I love the ability for it to just completely bring me to a different mind state and stop worrying about certain things that are going to happen, because at the end of the day it almost always works out. And but it's good to be able to just separate those thoughts.
One of the things I think particularly EDH works really well for in terms of meeting people and making friends is there aren't a lot of hobbies or things you can do where you find yourself in that communal dinner table environment where you can have a conversation and get to know somebody. If you are someone who goes and after work goes to the gym or something, it's very easy to cocoon yourself up, put on some headphones, go in, lift weights, jump on the exercise bike, whatever you're doing, and then leave. Or if you're, your hobby, if it's like you're somebody who jogs or whatever it is that you're doing after work to relieve stress, maybe it's good for relieving stress, but it's not necessarily a good way to meet people or engage with people. EDH almost seems designed for that. You sit down and you're playing a game, but like how often does that conversation, even with people you don't know, devolve into talking about other things? And then you discover you have that shared interest. And then when you play the person the next time, you already know something that you guys can start talking about. And like the next thing you know, you're friends with that person. Like it's very unique in that regard because it replicates that having dinner with people and getting to know one another in a way that I think very few hobbies ever do. In the example I am going through right now was a friend of Matt's, Biaka, who I've known, for a few years casually. Just talking about stuff, we realized we have kind of some music tastes in common. So we've been sending each other playlists the last week of like kind of like deep cut songs that we like. But like Magic has enabled that. I found a bunch of songs. Biaka's found a bunch of cool songs and some bands that we didn't know. And we were able to discover that shared taste in music because of sharing spaces around EDH. And like now we've gotten to introduce one another to a bunch of cool songs. Yeah. That's the kind of unique thing I feel like you get when you share that table with somebody, whether it's at a great meal or it's playing Commander.
Absolutely. About a year ago, I had the pleasure of having lunch with BDM, or Brian David Marshall, and another introduction through my friend BK. And BDM is into making cocktails. He has every one of his posts is about a new drink he's working on. And I swear to God, within 30 minutes of parting ways, he was already sending me pictures of cocktails he's made. And he walked all through my bar and was like doing all these certain things. And because of, again, a thing that happens at a table, Magic, and or having a drink or a lunch with somebody, this friendship grew. And before you know it, we're like bouncing recipes off each other or techniques. And then later on, when he was doing his vintage versus type 1 event, I was able to contact him and have him create a couple cocktails. And I had one of my bar managers make them in mass. And at the event, he got to walk in, see his drinks being served, and see his name and cocktail names on a menu, which brought tears to his eyes. He couldn't believe that something that was just a hobby to him has become like a reality in like a real working scenario and made people's lives better. And that's kind of how I feel about like my medium, food, and what it's done for my hobby and my passion. I have gotten to meet so many incredible people based upon food and sharing a meal and a table scenario. And now here I am. I'm friends with you guys. I'm friends with Gavin and BDM, and I get to meet all of these people that are so important and intertwined in the Magic community that most people don't get to. And it's just because I made a good biscuit, Matt. which
Yeah,
I can't wait to
but
feed
is-
you, man.
That
But it's
biscuit
also-
is crazy good. I will absolutely recommend that biscuit, man.
But it's also just kind of crazy that like we get to keep talking about just all the doors that Magic opens up for people. Whether it's not just getting to play a game and experience things, but just like you said, you met Brian David Marshall, who like has been on the Pro Tour, historian track for years and years. I mean, everybody like any Magic boomer like Dana and I knows who Brian David Marshall is, and getting to meet him just because of Magic people, not because of the game itself, but because you knew other people. I love like the 6 degrees of separation you can play with Magic players is so wild to me that like, that's kind of the point of what we're saying is like, there's so many experiences you get just because of this game.
There needs to be a Kevin Bacon secret layer.
Kevin. Yes.
Yeah, and like earlier this year, I got to meet Bob Mayer, like arguably one of the greatest Magic players of all time.
Mhm.
And he lives, like 15 minutes from me, and we meet up for lunch. And we don't really even talk about Magic. Once in a while, I get to, squeeze a story out of him about Pro Tour days or, getting to design a card. But more often than not, we just talk about what it's like to own businesses and have employees and trying to meet our employees' expectations and how to balance relationships and families and work life. And, it's this door that opened because of a game. It's because of a piece of cardboard that has made friendships now that I know will last forever. It's an incredible thing.
And for those who don't know, Bob Mayer, I held the card up here on screen. I'm not sure if it's going to make the edit. Bob Mayer is Dark Confidant, the both gentleman in the actual art for the card and a guy who worked on the design for it a little bit. That was super. Actually, that was at dinner at CubeCon where like this is my friend Bob, and we were both like at some point introduced as we had the realization of who that was.
Yeah,
just like the nicest guy in the world. Yeah, right. Yeah,
and he almost killed us with a thrill. He hasn't picked up a Commander deck in I think years. He said, and so he grabbed one of my decks and almost just wiped us out like within turn 4.
It's like
a different mind.
It's like 1 a.m. and we've been eating for hours and drinking probably too much, and we're playing a game with you and I and Bob and BDM. That's what more can one possibly want from an evening, right? That's
it right there, right?
Yeah.
It's all over this crazy game.
Yeah. And sure, it's easy to talk about like that when you're playing with BDM and Bob Mayer or something, but like how many times has that happened just with your friends where you're just like, it's just a perfect night. You're hanging out with your buddies and you guys have ordered pizza and had a few drinks and everyone's feeling good and having a good conversation, and the game and the meal and the camaraderie and all of that stuff is just enabled by it and makes your life better. And that's like the way you make human connections.
It's one of those things where when those perfect storms hit, you lay down at night and you're just like, holy crap, that was a perfect day. That was a turn 1 Soul Ring right there.
Right. that was the Soul Ring into Signet of days for sure.
Yeah.
And like we mentioned earlier, like that, Matt had a beautiful wedding not many months ago, and like just there was a lot of people there that was enabled by this game, and it means a lot to me that I've played this because like honestly, so I came back to Magic in I think 2013 or so. So we're looking at 13 or 14 years, but I hadn't played for a long window. I had left around Ice Age, I think, so I hadn't played for a long time. But I also, during that window, I was working a lot of hours too, maybe not as crazy as you were, but like I was working a lot of like 50, 60 hour weeks too, doing IT stuff. And it's tough to make friends and like have much of a social life when you're working that many hours. And when I started playing Magic and started playing Commander again, honestly, like all of my close friends here around me locally are people I've met through Magic. Cause like that's the outlet I had to meet people as an adult. And before I was playing Commander, I didn't have one really. Like I was just working and raising a kid, and that was what my life consisted of.
Yeah. I mean, I only had industry friends, basically.
Yeah.
I had 3 friends that were out of the industry, and I would buy Blackhawks tickets once a year to make sure that those three friends would, hang out with me still. I joke, but it was
Sure.
beyond that. It was a work and go home situation, and then kids come into it, and it becomes another thing, and it's stressful. And now I have this group of friends that are always there for me. We meet up for coffee 3 days a week and play pre-modern or whatever new pre-release set came out. And it's just this incredible support group. We're there to help each other. We're there to build each other up. I mean, I think the first time that you and I got to hang out after CubeCon was for my birthday. You were in town for something for something your son was doing, and the day before, I had to put my dog down, and I was a wreck. I've never been that sad in my entire life. And the next day, here I am with 10 people at my house, everybody in my magic group, and Dana shows up and, you know, eating, drinking, just laughing. And it didn't like make me forget about it, but it made it easier. And it was this action and interaction at a table. And, we're eating pizza over at a different table and in this thing. So, at the end of the day, I think that the table is what we need to work on. I had the honor of hosting Phil Rosenthal from Somebody Feed Phil a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And I was the orator for his live show in town, and he left me with a thought that really stuck with me. And he said, "Build tables, not walls." And that is something that I think about every day. Like right now, we need more tables, right? We need more spots for people to love each other and come to an agreement with each other and spend quality time with each other versus everything else that's happening. And I'm not trying to spin it politically, but just anything in life. Like, take a minute to sit down at a table and share a meal with somebody. Take a couple hours and sit down and play some games with somebody. It doesn't even have to be Magic. It can be anything. But being at a table with another human can be one of the most rewarding things you can get in life.
Yeah, I mean, finding that those moments of joy is the best thing you can do for yourself, whatever form that kind of takes.
I mean, whatever that feeling is, like finding, like you said, Sean, finding those people and just being at the table present with them, it opens, again, I know we keep saying it opens doors, but you're sitting together and you're just creating these opportunities to share whatever that is. And like, I mean, I wouldn't have people at my wedding. And Dana, like you and I have been buddies for how long? And like, we've shared more experiences than just joy for sure. And just like having that support system that you can even find, that's so valuable. And like, I mean, Sean, we were talking before the show about, well, I'm an emotional leader and I get bored and I have to eat. Like it does so many other things. And how many times have we used Magic as not a distraction from our day job, but as a distraction from real life things and use it as just to kind of cope with those things? I know we get to hear from listeners all the time, and I'm super grateful for them sharing these experiences of like Magic gets people through these hard times. Food gets people through hard times and just gives them that reprieve almost, is a kind of a way that I think about it, where yeah, things are rough that day, but you have something to get you through, and you have something to just give you a little bit of joy to kind of find those nice moments throughout like a tumultuous day.
Yeah, and I think something that's really cool about our jobs, the similarity is that we have the power to make somebody's day better, right? You guys being out in the wild playing with games with people makes their day. My crew got to play against Joey at one of the last Magic Cons, and they were just like, "This was the coolest game we've played." And I know for a fact, like in my career and my friends' Magic's careers, like getting to play with somebody who is in the limelight of the EDH world, it's, you kind of get starstruck, and you guys have this power to make somebody's day better. And I have the power to make somebody's day better as well through food. And I don't think that should be taken lightly. I think that's, if you lose sight of that, I think the entire point is missed. And like Massimo Botoro told me one time, he said, "Don't miss the point." And that resonates with me too. Like, what is the point? And I think we're fortunate that at the end of the day, we get to go to bed saying like, we did something today that has a positive impact on people's lives. And I think that's pretty cool. Here we are again. It's a game or it's a meal, but it's awesome, right? It's powerful. It's sweet.
Yeah, I mean I don't know what I'm going to say that's a better bullet to wrap this up on. That seems like the perfect kind of bow to tie here. So I think let's wrap this up. Sean, thank you very much for joining us. And before we go here, you've got a couple things coming up I'd like you to talk about briefly. You were just talking about was it an interview or something you have coming up?
Yeah, I've got a couple things coming up. Again, all of my establishments are in Madison, Wisconsin. I am about to open a new bar above on a rooftop bar in Madison called The Perch. I don't have an exact date because that's how construction goes, but we're very close. And then coming up in February, I have an episode about me on a TV show called Wisconsin Foodie, where the host Luke Zahm and I kind of go through my career path and my passions and cook food together and just talk about the joy of my career. You can talk about the hardships all the time, but just getting to film this episode and talk about everything that's positive about it was really great. So yeah, really excited for some of those things coming up. Got a few other things that I'm working on, but I won't announce any of those right now. And hopefully I'll get to see everybody soon.
And Matt.
I mean, I don't have any episodes devoted to me coming up, but if you'd like to find me on social media and catch me there, pretty much any social media platform works, whether it's Instagram, Blue Sky, whatever. It's at Mathemus55 across the board. And don't forget, we are so happy going into 2026 to get to continue to work with Dragon Shield. So they have the best sleeves. They get to feature just really awesome art now with all the Magic cards that are coming out. So keep an eye out for all of that and some of their new releases that we can't quite talk about yet, but there's some really cool stuff coming from Dragon Shield. And if you're getting some sleeves from Dragon Shield, make sure you use code EDHREC to save yourself a little something in the process.
And if you want to catch me on any social media, sorry, Dana, I'm at Chef Sean Pharr on Instagram. That's about the only one I'm on. So
you can find me online at Dana Roach. I'm including social media for Architect. So if you want to see my cat on the Architect Instagram, go check that out. But thank you very much for joining us. And remember, EDH Wreck Your Deck before you wreck your deck.